Hello everyone, you've seen the title of this video, you know what's happening. We are buying another SUV. This will be the third SUV we have in the family between my wife and I. I'll talk more about why exactly I'm buying this vehicle later on in the video, so this will be a two-part video. In this first part here, we'll go over the new vehicle, the new adventuremobile. I'll show it to you and we'll talk about it a little bit. Then in the second part of the video, I'll talk about why exactly I wanted another vehicle and the things that I wanted in another vehicle and how this particular vehicle fits with those things that I wanted. We are at Suboverland in Twin Falls, Idaho. Now, you've been here before. I've shown you Suboverland in the past, introduced you to Grady, the owner. He's loaned a couple of Suburbans to me, but we're not buying a Suburban. So here he is. This is Grady, owner of Suboverland. How you doing, Grady?
Good, Tristan. Good, yeah.
So what can you tell us about this vehicle here?
So this one's an 01 GMC Yukon, and it's a Yukon, and that means it's the shorter wheelbase. So
compared to a Suburban or a Yukon XL?
Yes. So in the previous videos that you've done, you did the Suburban, the white Suburban, and then the gold one. And this one, the main difference is just the wheelbase.
And so the GMC Yukon here, this is the same thing as a Chevy Tahoe, right?
Yes, so Yukon, Tahoe, Escalade, Denali, those are all the same wheelbase. This is a 2001, like I said, so it has the 5.3 V8, just like the Suburbans, same suspension setup. They're really identical, drivetrain-wise. So we put these tires, these are 285, 75, 16, so a little oversized. These are Dick CPEC Trail Country EXP 10-ply tire. They're a pretty aggressive tread, but they're really quiet on the highway, which is important to us. And then suspension, it's a Bilstein 5100 shock, probably the best shock you can get. And then new rear coils and the rear suspension. And then the front suspension's a torsion bar, so we just put new keys in and adjust it to level. And voila, we got the lifted Yukon.
So how much ground clearance does this have?
I don't even know. I've never measured it.
It's got quite a bit. I mean, there's a good foot of ground clearance under most of that.
As far as off-road capability, this one is a little bit better because it has the G80 rear locker and the rear differential. And it's a limited slip or a posi track. They're all similar. And it locks up the rear tires when they're spinning, and so helps out a lot. And then this just has the regular high and low range transfer case, and it's electronic from inside the car. So it's not a manual shift on the floor, it's just a button. This vehicle is our base build. So when we say base, it means we do all the suspension and tire stuff that I just talked about, and then we also do a tune-up, so spark plug and wires, fuel filter, air filter, check belts, do all the regular checks. That also includes checking the brakes, different things like that. And then we also change all the fluids, so engine oil, transmission fluid, front and rear differential, transfer case, it's all done. And then on top of that, we drive the vehicle for months. So for example, Tristan's here just about a week ago. We were driving it and it died. And a fuel pump was going out. And so I love catching that because we don't want our clients just to be driving home and the thing dies or whatever, right? No one's happy there. And so we try to keep them as long as possible and driving them around. Tristan's, we also did a radiator, a water pump, and the fuel pump. So those are like the major things that we did on top of our typical, tune-up.
And then I don't really know anything about cars or engines, but it all looks good in here. It looks clean, looks detailed, looks good. And then here's the interior, the front. Looks good, nice tan leather interior here. And then in the back, Grady and his team unbolted the seats. They're still in place, but I'm going to be removing them tonight, going to be putting them in storage tonight. So that, of course, we can build a sleeping platform back here. And obviously this is bigger than my RAV4, this is bigger than my wife's Toyota Highlander. And I don't really know what I want to do with the space yet. I am going to tomorrow be building a simple platform in the back of the car here, so you can look forward to that in future videos. Just a simple platform build back here so that Cassie and I and Bowser can all sleep back here comfortably. Looks awesome, lots of space, nice and bright, big windows. I'm excited. I think we measured it and it was like 78 or 80 inches long between the back of the front seats here and then the rear door, so quite a bit of space. Lots of room to play with.
So as far as interior goes, you know, they're like 20-year-old vehicles. Usually most of our vehicles are around 20 years old, but we will replace a lot of times the bottoms of these seats. Very rarely the tops are bad, so we'll just do the bottoms. So like on Tristan's steering wheel, I mean, there's like some marks, and then like the dash. So they're never like perfect showroom quality, but we try to fix like major, you know, like a giant hole in the seat. We're not gonna like let that pass, you know. And they're all detailed and ready to go. And so that's what Tristan's got also. So we just started, probably about 6 months ago, we started trying this as a base vehicle for our clients, the shorter wheelbase. I don't know, I just really think there's a lot of benefits to the shorter wheelbase. And one of them is off-roading capability for sure. And then easier to park, and they handle just a little bit differently because they're easier to turn, better turning radius, kind of like those type of benefits to me. And you could argue that this is a little bit more stealthy than a Suburban just because, you know, it's a smaller SUV, and so people don't really think that people are living out of them or whatever. So a little bit more stealth advantage there too. And then on top of that, you still get the same reliability as a Suburban. So we offer this to our clients when they're making their decision on what kind of vehicle they want. We do build these out to a full Son package with all the woodwork and everything too.
Well, thank you, Grady. I'm excited to take this 2001 GMC Yukon away from you and put it on some adventures, take it on some adventures. We've got some paperwork to fill out, so I'm going to end this part of the video here. But of course, I'll put links to Grady's stuff, to Suboverland and his YouTube channel and Instagram account and everything in the video description if you want to check those out. He's not giving this to me for free. He did give me a deal on it, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you for giving me a good deal on this. But you know, I am paying for this, so this isn't just complete product placement here. I do like these vehicles, and I trust Grady to not rip me off, so that's why I wanted to have him get a vehicle for me. And I didn't want to spend the time trying to find a used car, and you know, I don't know anything about cars. I don't know how to, you know, what kind of suspension to add or what kind of tires or anything like that, so I just wanted someone else to take care of that for me, and so that's why I came to him. So let's like I said, finish some paperwork here, and then we'll continue on into the second part of the video. Alright everyone, so why did I want this beautiful vehicle? Why did I want something like this 2001 GMC Yukon? And by the way, I don't think I said the mileage on it. It has about 164,000 miles, somewhere in there. So pretty low mileage for being a 20-year-old vehicle. But I made a list of 7 reasons why I wanted a new vehicle and why this particular vehicle meets those needs, addresses those needs. So let's go through the list here. Number 1, I have it written down here. The first one is that the RAV4 that I've been using for the last, 5 years now, I love it. It's a great vehicle. I'm going to be keeping it, by the way. The RAV4 isn't going anywhere. I'm still going to be using it on trips, but I don't have anything else to say about it. I've perfected the setup for me, and so I'm not really interested in making more videos about how to camp in a RAV4 because I've already done that. I wanted something else to talk about in my videos. The second reason I wanted a new vehicle is that I wanted another travel vehicle for myself. So we currently have 3 SUVs now. My wife has a Toyota Highlander, I have a Toyota RAV4, and I wanted another one. I don't really use my wife's Highlander. She really likes that car. I don't want to wreck it. You know, I'm a aggressive driver. I go drive down pretty rough roads. I don't want to do anything that'll hurt her Highlander. So I wanted 2 vehicles to have as my adventure vehicles. Basically, I wanted a backup so that when one of them has to go in the shop, has to have some work done to it, I can have another one. Or if my wife's car has to be taken into the shop for whatever reason, then we'll each still have a car. There's a saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none, but the idea behind that is that as soon as something bad happens to one of your numbers, then you don't have a spare anymore. You're just one bad thing happening away from not having a backup. And I like having a backup. I like having multiple cameras, multiple tripods. I like making sure that I have everything I need, and that extends to the actual vehicles. I like the idea of having multiple vehicles. Having 3 vehicles for 2 people, yeah, it's a little bit unnecessary, but remember that this is my job, and it's just a tool of my trade, really, at this point. Ignore this stuff in the back here. I built a platform for the back to put our mattresses on. I'll cover that more in a future video, in an upcoming video, and there's just junk back here that I'm taking to the storage unit and everything. But the third reason I want a new vehicle is that I want to split up the mileage that I drive. So my RAV4, it also has around 164,000 miles at this point. Interestingly, this and my RAV4 have about the same. And I want the RAV4 to last a little bit longer, and so I don't want to be driving 20,000 miles a year on the RAV4. I want to offload some of that mileage onto another vehicle. And I figured as long as I'm getting another vehicle, let me get one that'll complement the RAV4 in other ways, and something like this fit the bill. This Yukon did that. It used to be the case where if I had a few days for a trip, I'd want to stay pretty close to home because I didn't want to put a lot of miles on the car for such a short trip. But now that I have 2 cars to use at my disposal, because again, really, I don't use my wife's car, but now that I have 2 cars of my own to use, I'm okay with driving, 500, 1,000 miles one way for just a few days. I don't mind putting all those miles on that car because I'm not going to be putting those many miles on the car all the time. I can split the miles up between the 2 vehicles. The fourth reason I wanted a new vehicle is that I wanted high clearance. My RAV4 has, more clearance than a Honda Civic, but it's what I call medium clearance. And I wanted true high clearance. And this is true high clearance. This thing has a lot of clearance now. With the bigger tires and the lift, it has clearance. And the reason I wanted high clearance was because whenever my RAV4 got stopped on a road, whenever I had to stop and turn around because a road got too rough, it was almost always because I didn't have enough clearance, because there were rocks in the road that my RAV4, or like little steps of rock in the road that my RAV4 just couldn't safely get over. This can get over those things. And so with this rig, I'll be able to go places that the RAV4 simply can't go. I've got a list of places like in the mountains and in the desert that I'd like to visit, but I just haven't been able to, and so this will open up new destinations, new locations for me. I also wanted a vehicle with all-time 4-wheel drive. So my RAV4, believe it or not, does have 4-wheel drive. Now whenever I say that in a video, people say, well actually your RAV4 only has all-wheel drive. No, it doesn't. My RAV4, my 2011 RAV4 has 4-wheel drive. Some RAV4s have all-wheel drive, some have 4-wheel drive. The older ones especially have 4-wheel drive. But it's only good under, I think, 25 miles an hour. So if I'm on a really snowy or icy road driving around town and I want to go slow, then it's helpful for that. Or if I'm on a dirt road and there's a muddy spot, I can turn on the 4-wheel drive and it'll help me get through that. But it's not super helpful in other situations. If I'm going any speed above 25 miles an hour, if I'm driving on the highway, then, my 4-wheel drive doesn't work. And so I wanted something that had the option for full-time 4-wheel drive. Now this, right now I have it in 2-wheel drive. There are some switches, some buttons you can press for 2-wheel drive, for automatic 4-wheel drive, which will engage the 4-wheel drive when you need it, and then for 4-wheel drive high and low. So 4-wheel drive high is what you would normally drive it around in, like for example, in winter, this will be in 4-wheel drive high almost all the time. I would put it in low if I needed extra torque. If I needed to get up an icy hill, maybe I'd switch into that. If I was stuck in some mud, or if I saw some deep mud or snow or sand up ahead and I needed to get through it, then I would switch it into 4 low and proceed to hopefully dominate that section of sketchy road. Most of the time I say that 4-wheel drive is not necessary for SUV RVing. I think that clearance is far more important than 4-wheel drive. But 4-wheel drive is really nice to have in winter. And I live in eastern Idaho and we have serious winters here. In a couple of years, we're probably going to be moving to Montana. Montana has serious winters, and so I wanted a vehicle that was a good winter driving vehicle, something that my wife and I could both drive around town in winter and it would feel safe. Something else that I wanted in another vehicle, something that I wanted to do was have it set up for 2 people to sleep in the back all of the time. So most of the time, my RAV4 is set up just for 1 person, for me, because I travel alone most of the time. But my wife Cassie does occasionally come on trips with me when her school schedule allows, and it's kind of a pain to convert the RAV4 from a 1-person setup to a 2-person setup. I wanted something that could be a dedicated 2-person camping vehicle, and this is that. As I mentioned, I have already built a platform in the back. It's not quite finished yet, so I'm not going to show it to you, but having that platform will mean that basically at any time my wife can come camping with me on short notice. We don't have to spend a long time taking stuff out of the car and putting a double mattress in and reconfiguring everything, trying to figure out how it'll all work. And then finally I wanted to touch on why I wanted something like this, like a Yukon or a Tahoe, instead of a Yukon XL or a Suburban, something longer. And basically it comes down to a couple of things. First, I don't need that extra space. Even in the RAV4, I have plenty of space. Space is not a concern for me on my SUV camping trips. Now, I don't hate more space, but it's not something I need. It wasn't the main driver. It wasn't the main reason I wanted a new car. And the Suburbans definitely feel bigger. They're not as easy to drive. They're not as maneuverable on backcountry dirt roads. It's just easier to get around in a shorter, smaller vehicle. And on top of that, I didn't want Cassie to drive a really big vehicle. She wasn't comfortable driving something as big as a Suburban, and so obviously I wanted her to be able to drive the vehicle, and that meant that something shorter would be better. And I just like the shorter wheelbase, and the distance between the wheels here, that makes for a better off-roading vehicle. Really, there was no reason for me to get a bigger vehicle, for me to get a Suburban or a Yukon XL. I like them, they're cool, maybe we'll get one in the future. You know, again, I wouldn't turn my nose up at extra space, but that wasn't the priority for this particular vehicle. And that's it, that's why I wanted a new car, and that's how this particular vehicle fills those needs. I'm excited. This is a really fun car to drive. Just driving it around town. I drove it to Utah a couple days ago, about 4 hours there and back. It drives great, and I'm really looking forward to the adventures that we can go on in this rig. And again, I'll still be using the RAV4 for trips, and I'll make content for that and about that and with that as I can, as I want to. But then it's also fun for me to have a new vehicle because I have a lot of videos to make about this. So the platform in the back, there will be a video about that. There will be at least 2 or 3 videos about gear that I'm buying for this. So like generic gear for any new car, and then a video about camping specific gear that I'm getting for this car, maybe a video about emergency gear I'm getting for this car. There's just a lot of content I can make with and around this car, which is fun for me. You know, I've made hundreds of videos about car camping before, and I've never had a vehicle like this, and so it'll be something new for me to make videos about. And again, after having made so many videos, it's always fun to visit a new place or to do a new thing or to have a new vehicle. So hope you guys are looking forward to this. I certainly am. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to answer them. And thanks again to Grady for finding this for me and doing the build, doing the lift and everything, and getting it ready for us. Again, he certainly didn't give it to us for free. I still paid several $1,000s for this vehicle, but he did give us a discount, and again, I'm happy to pay someone to do the work for me, work that I am unable to do or don't have the time to do or don't want to do. And if that describes you, also head on over to suboverland.com. I'll put a link to his website and his YouTube channel in the video description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.